Hey, what's up everybody? Tony with Lido Loca. Let's talk about working on a cruise ship. Is it easy to work on a cruise ship, or should you even work on a cruise ship? Those are hotly debated topics in cruising, and I want to break it down in this video. What the cruise line could do to make it easier to work on a cruise ship. So let's address the elephant in the room. Should you even try to work on a cruise ship? Some people say, look, you're on vacation, you shouldn't work at all. But I think that's a pretty myopic, a pretty narrow-minded approach to the way people live their lives. We live in a world where people have all kinds of ways to make their living. There are people who teach online. There are people that own their own business. There are people that never go to a brick and mortar office or go to a location to do their work. They're completely remote workers. And they work along the lines of flexible schedules, flexible locations, and just because you're going on a cruise doesn't mean that that's going to stop. For example, let's say you got a couple days vacation. You got a Thursday and Friday that you want to take off. You're off the weekend and you see a cruise near where you live that would take you down to the Caribbean. However, the cruise starts on the previous Sunday. It's a 7-day cruise. Well, if you are a remote worker, you could get on and you could work for 3 days. You could work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, have your 4-day vacation, and nobody is none the wiser. As long as you can do your work, as long as you can connect to the places you need to connect to and spread out the way that you need to spread out. But for me, I don't see a problem with it. Again, vacation any way you want. If you got to do some work to take those 2 days off and go down to the Caribbean, I say do it. Look, come on people, let's not be so nose in the air to think that everybody lives exactly the same life that you do and that everybody can take 7 days off. And if you're one of the people that say, look, if you can't take off 7 days to go for a cruise, you shouldn't cruise, how dare you? Look in the mirror, check yourself, give these people a break. The broader question though is, with so many people working remotely now, being able not to be tied to a particular location or an office, really only needing an internet connection to do their job, could the cruise lines do a little more to help the telecommuter? I think they could. And look, it's not just for the benefit of the customer. We know that this is a business, and the cruise industry is constantly trying to grow. They're trying to make themselves more accessible to broader amounts of people. If you look over the last few years, they do things to appeal to kids and things to appeal to younger people while continuing to shore up their traditional base of older cruisers. The cruise industry is constantly evolving to bring more people into the fold, and I think maybe the telecommuter, the remote worker, is an untapped market that, just like hotels realized years ago that they needed to have business centers and high-speed internet as a way to bring in the business traveler, I think cruise lines could benefit from more revenue if they made some changes to make cruise lines a little more remote worker friendly. Of course, the biggest one is step up that high-speed internet. Technically, it's a challenge because it's not wired. They have to use a wireless technology either through satellite or shore-to-shore type technology, and that is normally slower than traditional wired technology, and it is more expensive than traditional wired technology. And so that is a technological barrier that the cruise lines are continuing to overcome. But as we see mobility, 4G, 5G continue to increase its bandwidth, continue to increase its connection speeds, the cruise line will benefit from that kind of technology. And we're starting to see some really good strides in a lot of lines. Royal Caribbean Zoom, for example, is almost as fast as if you are on land. It is a very usable piece of internet technology, and for the remote worker, it's very doable. Other cruise lines are starting to step up and get faster internet. I think the first thing to do to pull in more remote workers or people that want to work a couple days a week of their cruise, you gotta step up that internet. And then the other big thing is you got to give people a place to work. Now, I've tried to work in the cabins that I've been in, and normally I can get it done, but most of the time there's only enough space for a laptop. You can't really spread out with a notebook. It can be a little bit of a challenge, so you're forced to kind of find a place on the cruise ship to work. Maybe you go to the library, but the library doesn't necessarily have the power connections that you need. And so I think a dedicated space for remote workers or people that just want to get some things done, a desk space with power and USB and some of those more business type amenities, I think would serve the cruise lines well to just kind of raise the flag and say, look, hey, remote worker, there's a place for you. Hey, online teacher. Think about that. If you made fully your living from online teaching and you could afford it, you could cruise all the time and do your online teaching. Again, I think the biggest thing that maybe holds people back are the internet connection speeds and a place to work. Phone calls and conference calls are going to continue to be a challenge, but there are a lot of mobile providers that are now providing international calling for a less expensive rate. And again, there's always the ability to use voice over IP, but that is really predicated on a fast internet connection. So as the internet continues to get better on the cruise ships, I think the ability to make voice calls, the ability to conference will come into line. And the last component for me is the marketing. I think traditionally cruising has been marketed as a great way to be disconnected, to leave the worries of home behind. But I think that kind of message ignores what we're looking at in the modern context, where people work not necessarily a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, but where they work based on objectives that they have to get done, where they work remotely, where they telecommute. I think there is a larger audience out there that is untapped, that if you change the marketing a little bit, change the messaging of cruising to make it more inclusive to the remote worker, I think there is some untapped revenue that the cruise lines could get on with. And I think there's a whole new set of cruisers out there that we could bring into the fold and say, look, you can work a little bit, you can play a little bit, and the cruise line offers all that for you. No better place to work for me than on a cruise ship. I can work all morning, I can go have my meal that's been prepared for me in the main dining room or in the buffet, and then I can step off the cruise ship and go to the beach. That sounds like a pretty great day if I have to work a few hours, and of course it's a great day for a vacation. But in reality, there are people that have concerns that they can't escape. There is work that sometimes needs to be done. And again, who wouldn't rather have 4 days of vacation on a cruise ship while working a couple days than not going on a cruise ship at all? That's just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. First of all, in the comments, tell me, do you work remotely on a cruise ship? Are you some sort of telecommuter? How often do you actually get to go cruising without needing to check back in at home? Leave a comment below, and let's continue the conversation. Do me a favor, take your finger, or if you're on a mobile device, hit that thumbs up button or click the mouse on the thumbs up button. And if you haven't ever, consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of our content. Again, my name's Tony for Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.